Good afternoon, grand rising, good evening, depending on where you're at and when you're watching this. Let me go check my sound and let me get this thing on a share screen here. Let's talk. What do we got going on? Well, we've hit our limit. That's what we got. We hit our limit. I'm gonna try to get this thing to get out of the way, but it won't X out. Won't X out. Resets after 9 p.m. and realized they were limiting the use of the Chat GPT, but they are because they want to sell you the high-end version of Chat GPT. And I can tell you what I'm sharing with you here is the full in-depth conversation that I've been having and preparing documents. I wish this thing would shut, but it doesn't want to cooperate. It doesn't want to close down this. You've hit the free plan limit. I gotta go over here and check my stream and see if it is actually working. Buddy, what are we going to do with you and that cough? Trying to clear it up. All right, so we're 5x5 on the volume. Stream seems to be working. And okay. I would highly advise folks to go back and listen to my live where I'm talking to the Chat GPT, asking questions of the Chat GPT, and start reflecting on what it's saying, what it's adding to the conversation, what it's acknowledging, and you're kind of going to be left in a position of trying to say that there's something wrong with the Chat GPT, that there's something wrong with the information that it's putting forward. And I can tell you it's putting forward information on its own and acknowledging the factual content that is being explored in the conversation that I'm having with the Chat GPT, with the questions that are being posed to Chat GPT. And I'm going to slowly roll through this. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you the full screen here because it just won't X this out. It just won't go away, which is like, okay. Yeah. Anyway. So after feeling out the Chat GPT, discovering that it stores a library of text of everything that you ask and everything that it responds, I have today been communicating with it via just text and not trying to communicate with the ChatGPT using voice. And I tell you, it is pretty telling, the information that it is adding to the context of the questions that I'm posing to the ChatGPT. Most of the information that are questions that I'm putting towards the ChatGPT for the OpenAI are surrounded around the legal names, the birth date versus the file registration date, the Trading with the Enemy Act, the Social Security Trust, the driver's license, the passport, and you're going to be a bit blown away. If you're not, there's something wrong with you, which I know there's something wrong with a lot of people that are in denial. Just do not want to face off with the reality of everything they've been making fun of for many moons is now, well, now you're going to have to go into denial with the ChatGPT and the artificial intelligence, the information that it's pulling forward. And it's only going to respond with what's loaded. That's not exactly true. Because part of the documents that I'm using ChatGPT to help create to serve to everyone, let me put it to you quite simply, I am going to serve this to everyone. Not that it isn't public notice right here, right now, where I'm doing this live feed on YouTube. What I'm about to scroll into is going to be considered public notice. And if you didn't get the notice, it's really not my fault. That's sort of like when they put public notice in the newspaper and you don't catch it. Oh, well, so sad, too bad. And this the same thing works in our unlimited ability to contract. If you don't catch the public notice, it's no fault of mine. It's public notice. You know, if you're going to think that you have a right to come after a man, cheat a man, lie to a man, steal from a man, maybe you should have looked a little further into what that man has on public notice. And Facebook, that's why they have a tab that says public, private, friends only. Well, when you put a notice up on Facebook under public, it becomes a public notice that can be seen by people on or off of Facebook. And let's not forget, the corporate world likes to go and look at your social site, Facebook in particular, to see, hey, you know, what are they really like, you know, when they're not here trying to get this position with our company or what have you. And I'll tell you, the information that it's responding with, it's a whole lot more responsive and in total agreement with the information that's being posed or the questions that are being posed to the artificial intelligence, OpenAI and ChatGPT-4. Remember, this is just a free version. If I had access to the pretty much like unlimited version, the unlimited, it's able to go on to the World Wide Web and pull even deeper information, and of course reflect on and expand on the information that is being put forward. And I tell you, when I asked the Chat GPT to prepare me a document with maximum laws in the protection of offspring, it included the right to travel. And that wasn't even brought into it. It brought that forward on its own. So, for all those that have been programmed by the mainstream media and the mainstream narrative of that's a sovereign citizen theory, yada, 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 it brought it forward all on its own. It wasn't even asked about right to travel. It was asked to provide maximum laws and a notice for protection of offspring. And one of the things it added to that notice was your right to travel without restrictions outside of commerce. And it's going to be a sad moment for the programmed people, especially those in roles from Donald Trump's executive position as the CEO, president of the corporate executive officer, president of what allegedly now is the United States LLC, which is dismantling the United States Incorporated, which has been under the Chapter 11 bankruptcy from way back in the day, along with the establishment of an emergency that's been never ending. Your grandparents lived through an emergency from cradle to grave under the Trading with the Enemy Act, which is a bill put forward by the Federal Reserve System. That is some of the things that I had the Chat GPT reflecting on. And I tell you, it's very telling. We'll jump back down here to the bottom and we'll work our way up. And I can tell you, I don't have to tell you, I can show you. And I wish I could. Let me try to reload this thing and get rid of this stupid little box here. Let's see if we can get that done. There we go. That's much better. All right. So the birth certificate registers event, not a living being. The legal fiction is created under corporate jurisdiction. The legal entity is registered as property of the state and utilized as a trust. The file date, not the date of birth, marks the creation of the legal entity. What's your name? What's your date of birth? James Freeman, pay attention, because this should really be embarrassing for you. And I'm not sure if you're not like a part of the CIA antagonistic corporate government, and that's why you run around showing people how to antagonize rather than how to recognize, to not to give their date of birth for a legal name, that only the cops are only ever looking for a legal name. The administrators are only ever looking for a legal name. What's your name is a tricky question. And you're going to have to excuse me for a minute. that's handled. So the ChatGPT overwhelmingly agrees with that by giving your date of birth, you are volunteering to be the surety and debtor, when the true obligor, something like that. The true obligation of debt is with the United States. Whether it's LLC, whether it's Inc., it doesn't matter. The true obligation of debt is with the corporation that is all caught up with these legal names, with the routing numbers of the Social Security Trust. That's who is supposed to be absorbing all the debts under the Chapter 11 bankruptcy, so eloquently put by James Traficant when he was an Ohio congressman, and of course they killed him. Eustace Mullins, McFadden, Kennedy, all of these people that have come out to expose the Federal Reserve. And, well, unless you live under a rock, you know what happened to them all. The same exact thing happened to all of them. And what we didn't have when they were doing that was the ability to be able to communicate with each other at the speed of light using the World Wide Web. And here we are on the World Wide Web. And this YouTube video right here should be circulated everywhere in the world that is able to at least look at YouTube, because we know that there are places in the world where they're not allowed to look at YouTube. They're not allowed to use Facebook. They're not allowed to communicate with their fellow man in a way in which we are. But those of us that are able to share and communicate and educate and share knowledge and show people the truth of what's going on, you know, that that's the importance of the information that's being disseminated here on this video. I'm not monetized, so this isn't like, you know, oh, I need to get 1 million views so I can get paid. It would be great, because financially I'm not doing well, and that's, I think, more orchestrated than anything. It definitely is orchestrated. The attacks on myself and my offspring and their well-being, not only by those trying to defend this system, but also my own family, who are trying to defend this system, as they can't figure out how to counter this truth, other than to, of course, attack it, call you crazy, all of these things. But the one thing they could not explain was when I was able to get rid of the child support by correcting the date with the credit bureau. That had them scratching their head, and they're all sweating, because my sister stole my inheritance from our dad, and she did so while he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And she was a deputy. She's a criminal. She's now going out with Eric Shoup, who trains feds. In fact, he just got done. He makes artwork with spoons. But anyway, he's the newest guy on the scene with my sister, Debbie Bianco Pallmeyer Ball. I don't know what she goes by. But I think there's been a big collusion there with my mom and her, and they're spending my inheritance that my dad left me that she decided to take and cut me out of without any proper notice. So yeah, and what do you do with these people? But here, what I can tell you, they all got the jab, so they're all in serious jeopardy, their lives. And as you pleaded with my mom, don't get this shot. Oh, I won't get it. I won't get it. I won't get it. Oh, I got it because I couldn't get on the cruise ship. Oh, okay. And that's, in fact, where they're getting ready to go on a cruise here pretty shortly, because they keep going on cruise after cruise after cruise. And, I tell my mom, Debbie shouldn't have been able to have stolen my inheritance. Well, she gives me money. Oh, okay, I see. And, when this happened, it was a funny thing because a house was bought for my mom supposedly to be able to live in by Frankie, by Frankie and my sister. Frankie owns Cool Air of Ocala. And this house was bought at the same time my dad passed away. And I'm pretty highly suspect that house was bought. And my mom was told she could live in it till she passed away. But then Frankie and Debbie, my sister, broke up, and everything hit the fan, and the house had to be sold, and my mom had to get out, and it's just a big mess. Nothing to say. But these people, they don't mind, and even your own family do not mind cheating you and leaving you basically in a bad financial position, for their own gain. Why we're trying to figure this all out. It's all figured out now. This is treason beyond reason. Okay, and we're going to get into that later on. We're not going to get into that right now. But this is such treason beyond reason that when I posed a question to ChatGPT about the panic of the system in relation to the file date and the revelation of how the legal name works and what's going on with people who are unknowingly giving their date of birth for that legal name, like on a driver's license. This includes passports. Passports are part of the global agenda. That's why everything's being pushed to just get your passport. They'll leave you alone. Yeah, because they know you're locked into the global agenda. And you might not think so. Well, they leave me alone. That's why they leave you alone, because they need to get everybody pushed into Real ID, which is the federal internal legal name tied to your date of birth, volunteering to be the debtor or surety, or the passport, which is your date of birth tied to that all caps name on that passport, which is a legal name. I don't care what the Foreign Affairs Manual says, 505.2. I don't care if they leave you alone. I don't care if they don't give you tickets. I don't care if they don't take your car. I don't care about anything but exposing why they would leave you alone. Why they want you to believe that this is some sort of remedy when you're taking a Gregorian date of birth and claiming that's your date of birth and commingling it with a legal name that was created by the state being defined as the District of Criminals, Columbia. So there's a bit to absorb here, but if any of you have not been living under a rock and have any amount of research into things, this know who you are and all these people trying to sell you books and get you to go to class and all of this business that really is not going to address the Gregorian calendar versus the 13-month calendar, the 13 stars on the back of the money, or the 13 colonies, and why we should be using the date from the lunar calendar. Because if you are using the date from the Gregorian calendar, you are right back in their bucket and don't even realize it. It's their calendar. You use what they create. You can only control what you create or God created and gave to us to use. However you'd like to look at it. But this is the reality of how tricky their traps are. And I know for some of you, it'd be too much to the idea that you shouldn't be on the calendar. My baby is crying. I gotta go. They're not going to let me do this. There is such a disturbance in the force today that it can't even be. I'll let you study that for a minute. I see that. I got you. Oh, poor baby. All right, lay down. All right, I know. I'm getting it. I gotta go, guys. We'll try this later. We got other problems.